Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. So by the way, guys, testing. I think we're ready to come online finally. We're quite a bit late as always. I apologize about that. Yo, what's up? Welcome back to Vencabot. Intro to Python action. My name is David. Yo, we're doing this show here every Friday lately where I sort of walk through some Python programming, usually game dev of some kind, for the total beginner. If you guys are not programmers, you've never programmed before, and you want to learn programming, it's a good place to start. If you guys want to learn the very, 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 very basics, we can go watch old videos on YouTube anytime you want. That's at youtube.com/Vencabot archive, or just go and search for Vencabot. You'll find me there that way as well. We have an Intro to Python playlist where we go through our various seasons of Intro to Python. Every season is 6 episodes, and we start off as total beginners, and then by episode 6 we have a fully working game of some kind, usually something very simple little example code for being your first time program. This is episode 2 of this season, guys. So last episode we talked about what is a program, what makes up a program. We learned it was about data and operations. Right? Operations are things your program does, and data is the information your program does it with. Right? Every program has to know something to do its job. That's a program's real function, right? It's to take some kind of data and mess with it and do all kinds of fun stuff with it. I might need to fix my my mouse. 1 second here, guys. I always forget that. Move the mouse over. There we go. Okay, so on top of that, we learned some basic programming tools to get our first program running. It's kind of impressive being our first program, right? We took about 2.5 hours with this, and it's a simple virtual pet. Let's run through it real quick after I read the chat here. I don't want to get too behind. You guys are giving me all kinds of fun information about a variety of topics that I love about being a streamer. Hard punch is C. Oh, I see. So it's called a CD because you're using the C and the D buttons. I'm going to see a huge difference in the 4 years Austin's been learning to program, huh? And Killzone says it's probably his 6th or 7th run. It only took you an hour and a half? You're learning pretty quick, it sounds like. We're talking about Spider-Man PS4. My friend Killzone speedrunning the game, I guess. He got his best time down to less than an hour and a half. To me, that's crazy. I never played it, but I assume it's a kind of a long game. Let's look through our program real quick here. The way our program works right now is we assign some data at the start of the program, and then we do some shit with it. Right? All this is doing some shit. And it's a pretty short program. It's really less than 100 lines. It's less than 40 lines, actually. It's a 39-line program, including all the empty spaces. That's interesting. But anyway, so it's a very simple program, but it's kind of fun. The way it works right now is we take the first 4 lines and define some values. Right? We can define them under whatever name we want. We're choosing pet's favorite food, and we're making that a caramel apple. His pet's most hated food, and that's okra. The pet's happiness is 50. That's a number we're defining, right? It's like a value. And its hunger is 50. Okay, so he has 2 kinds of foods that he likes and the one that he hates. And we have, a happiness level. It starts at 50, maxes out at 100, more or less. And a pet's hunger level, which goes down as he eats food. Okay, right away we ask the player what they want to name their pet with this print function. I'm going to go through this really quick, then kind of review it in a second. Also, we ask for the pet's name as an input from the player. So we ask them what they want their name to be for the pet. We print off a blank line to get a little bit of visual separation for the next bit of code here. So let's run our program and then see how it works. It says here, what's your pet's name? I'm going to name my pet, Austin. Okay, we want to feed Austin. I want to feed this motherfucker a cheeseburger, man. Austin likes cheeseburgers, who doesn't? Okay, so it says Austin eats the cheeseburger. Austin seems kind of down. That's sad. I thought he liked cheeseburgers. This guy didn't like cheeseburgers? What the fuck? Because I do love me some cheeseburger. Let's see why it made him down, though. So it says here, after we get our name for our pet, right? It says, what do you want to feed Austin? Where does that happen? It's right here, right? We have a big while loop. I'm going to review this really quickly after this, guys, but we learned last time about code blocks, right? While is a code block. We're going to go into more detail about that in a second. Anyway, it says here, while pet's hunger is greater than 0, so as long as the pet's hunger is, as long as he's hungry, right? As long as the hunger level is greater than 0. What do you want to feed pet's name? So what do you want to feed Austin? Okay, and then I get to input a food. It says here, if the pet's food that I entered is equivalent to the pet's favorite food, which is a caramel apple, right? That's Austin's favorite food of all time, obviously. Well, then he goes up. His happiness goes up, right? It says pet's happiness, the new value, equals whatever pet's happiness was plus 20. So start off at 50, right? So it would be 70 by now. It says here, else, if it wasn't his favorite food, right? If it was his favorite food, then raise happiness by 20. Else, or otherwise, if the food was his most hated food, then subtract 40. Right? So he really hates okra, right? He really hates okra, so that would actually make him really depressed. Otherwise, lower his happiness by 10. So he only wants, the only thing that makes him happy is his favorite food. Every other kind of food he eats makes him a little bit less happy. So basically, although Austin loves cheeseburgers, he was really holding out for a caramel apple, right? So we got a cheeseburger, and his happiness goes down by a little bit, right? Okay, so in other words, the only way to make his happiness go up by 20 is to give him his favorite food, which is a caramel apple. If you give him okra, he gets really sad, loses 40 happiness. And if you give him anything else, then he loses 10 happiness. Then we get some messages here. It says print off a blank line, and then print off Austin eats the caramel apple or cheeseburger, right? Wherever we entered. Then a period. Right? That meant right here. So we entered in cheeseburger. Austin eats the cheeseburger. Austin seems kind of down. Let's read this next part here to our code, the last part of our code. It says here, the last part of our code is reporting how happy Austin is now. It says here, if the pet's happiness is greater than or equal to 80, right, so start off at 50. If we gave him caramel apple, he'd be at 70. So he's not going to get here to the first turn. All right, anyway, it says here, if he is that happy, it says Austin seems ecstatic, like he is in the chat right now. Yeah, McDonald's sucks. That's funny. Yeah, I don't know, Austin. What do you prefer, nuts or no nuts on your caramel apples? I think you got to have nuts, right? You got to have nuts on a caramel apple. Anyway, it says here, otherwise, if it's not greater than or equal to 80, no nuts, you son of a bitch, Austin. I would time your ass out right now if I had Twitch open, but I don't. I have Python library open. I'll let it slide this time, but please be more considerate in the future with your caramel apple choices. So if Austin's happiness is greater than or equal to 50, right, so 50 or above, it says here, Austin is in high spirits. Otherwise, if Austin's happiness is greater than or equal to 25, right, so if it's not higher than 80, and it's not higher than 50, but it is higher than 24, then print off Austin seems kind of down. That's what we got, right? Austin seems kind of down. Right, because we gave him, he had 50 happiness, right? And then we gave him a cheeseburger, which lowered his happiness by 10. So now he's at 40 happiness, right? That's why it's not above 50, but it is above 25. So we get, Austin seems kind of down. Otherwise, if it's below 24, right? If it's, anything below 24, 24 or below, I should say, it prints off Austin seems mad depressed. Right, so you give him a bunch of cheeseburgers or give him some okra, he's gonna be mad depressed. And then every time that he eats, right, his hunger level is reduced by 20. And once he's full, once hunger level is below 1, right here, as long as pet's hunger is greater than 0, so once his hunger gets below 1, then we drop out of the loop and the game ends. Austin is full. Let's prove that, right? I'm going to feed Austin a caramel apple now. I feel bad for feeding him that cheeseburger. Okay, now he's in high spirits again. I'm going to give him another caramel apple. He seems ecstatic now, right? So he was, so let's follow that math, right? He was at 50 happiness when the game started. We fed him a cheeseburger, lowered down to 40. That's why we got that message, he seems kind of down. Then we gave him a caramel apple, which raised it by 20. So now he was at 60 happiness. And it says here he seems in high spirits, right? Because he was 50 or above. Right there. We gave him one more caramel apple, raised it from 60 to 80. And 80 or above seems ecstatic. That's why I got that last message there. Now he's full, and the game ended. Once the game ends, then, and once he's full, the game ends. Austin says here, I'm very sorry for all the nut lovers in the chat. I love nuts, dude. I love nuts. I love the way they feel in my mouth. Okay, so let's review why this code works the way it does, right? Let's go through some diction, some language features of Python for you guys that are beginners. For one thing, you might notice from last time, we have moved up from using Notepad to using idle. If you guys, are beginner programmers, then it makes sense to use Notepad because every programmer has Notepad, right? But as you become stronger in programming, you're going to want to have a text editor with more features that make programming a little bit easier. And what's cool is that Python, if you download Python, which you all have by now, I assume, it comes with a program called idle, and idle is what's called an IDE. It's an integrated development environment, which is a fancy word for saying it's a text editor like Notepad, but has some cool features on top of Notepad's features. So if you want to run idle, just go here to your, let's go to your .py file, right? Your .py file you made, and right-click it, and then it has an option here for edit with idle, right? Hover over that, click on whatever version of idle you want. It'll launch this program that you're seeing here. And this program has some pretty cool features. Right, let's demonstrate some of these. So for one thing, it has what's called syntax highlighting, which means it'll change the colors of certain types of words in your Python code. For instance, this while loop, you can see that the identifier of the block definition, is a different color. While is a code block, different color, right? If, else. All these code blocks have their first words highlighted, which makes it kind of easy to scroll through your program and find them very quickly. All the strings, the textual strings, are all one color, while number data is a different color. So you can go through and find all your strings very quickly. See that? Boom, boom, boom. Your function names, like print and input, the built-in functions, are highlighted. Isn't that convenient? Right? Very easy to find your prints and your inputs when you're scrolling through quickly. And some other things are also different colors as well. It makes life a little bit easier. Austin says, what are your thoughts on Notepad++? It's great. It's great. The only reason I recommend idle, guys, is because this series is designed for beginner programmers. I really don't want to overwhelm you guys with downloading a bunch of software to do your program. It's not really necessary. You can just use Notepad if you want, like we did last time, or you can use idle. Let's compare how this program looks in Notepad versus idle. Right. So last time we programmed in Notepad, and there's no reason why you can't do that. If you guys like Notepad more for whatever reason, you can do that, to your heart's content. This is the Notepad version. This is the idle version. Notepad version. Idle version. It's the same program. It runs the same. You can use either one you want. It's just that Notepad, although a little bit simpler, it does make it a little harder to read. For one thing, also, you can't have like line numbers. Here in idle, look in the lower right-hand corner here. You have your line number and your column number, which can be very useful for diagnosing problems in your code at some point, and counting how many lines your code is, etc. Python and Notepad is just text, right? It'll still work. You can still use it if you want. You still change values just the same. It's just that you don't get syntax highlighting. And also, what's cool about idle, last time we learned to run a Python program, you can go here to your Start menu, click on Start, and type in CMD for the Windows command prompt. Click on that, boom. Then you can go to your desktop. We learned CD is change directory to the desktop, then change directory again to our Intro to Python Season 4 folder. Okay, we learned about dir to show you all the files in that folder, and we learned about the py command, py space, and then we can do virtual pet day2.py. Boom. You can enter all the stuff. You can do Faust, and then we can feed a bunch of okra. Fuck you, Faust. Mad, depressed, even more okra. Dude, he's at negative 100 happiness. We learned about that, right? We can do that if we want to, but what's cool about idle is that you can go to run. And then just run the module right there. Really convenient, right? None of this command prompt nonsense. We have to run the CMD and find your files and stuff. That's really useful at any level of play, right? Any level of programming knowledge. What's that, Faust? Some kind of YouTube video. I mean, watch that if you want. It's funny, but not what I wanted to paste. I gotcha. The accidental pastes. What do you want to paste? I'm sorry, Faust. Let's make it up to Faust, right? We'll give Faust nothing but caramel apples to make up for it. All right, so he was at 50, now he's at 70 happiness. Now he's at 90 happiness, and now he is exceeding 100. He will be at 110 happiness after 3 caramel apples. Oh, thank you, Faust, for the clip. Yeah, Faust always going ham with the clips. He's that dude. Okay, cool. So we learned basically about idle, right? Idle's a little bit nicer for programming. You can still use Notepad if you want, if you're comfortable with it, but I recommend trying out idle. It's kind of nice. It works pretty much just like Notepad does, but a little bit fancier. Anyway, so we learned last time about assignment operations, right? So if you guys aren't programmers, you might not realize that it's very important that you save data under a name that you can then reuse and reuse and reuse again. For instance, look at this pet's name, right? It says here, what do you want to feed pet's name? Pet's name eats the pet's food. Pet's name seems ecstatic. Well, the reason we can use that is because up here, we saved a pet's name value. And we can call it whatever we want, right? We actually get to decide as programmers what we want to call our data. So it's not something that, Python made up for us. We made that up ourselves. We can call it, pet's moniker, pet's nickname, whatever we want. Right? As long as you use the same name later on in your code, right here, pet's name. Right? Likewise, we have, pet's favorite food. We define that as a caramel apple. And what's cool about this is that we could just have, let's say here, if the pet's food, that we typed in right here, is equal to caramel apple, watch this, right? Then it happens goes up, right? If it's okra, then it goes down. Okay, that makes sense, right? But what's interesting here is that by defining these values up at the top of our code, it makes it very easy to change the values, right? And also, if we had, let's say, a bunch of different tests about caramel apples, we'd have to type that in over and over and over again, caramel apple, caramel apple. And if we want to change that at some point to being like a cheeseburger, his favorite food, we have to change, maybe 10 entries of caramel apple to 10 entries of cheeseburger. Whereas if we just use the name pet's favorite food, right, and pet's hated food, what's cool about that is if we had, 10 entries of the favorite food, we can change their value immediately, only on one line, right? If we had, 10 times caramel apple, that would mean, deleting 10 caramel apples and adding in 10 cheeseburgers. But now all we gotta do is change one line. Cheeseburgers, the new favorite food. Yo, thank you, holy shit, Zanzu. $100? Yo, thank you, man. Welcome aboard, Kenny. Just in time for the big Zanzu contribution. Yo, Zanzu, welcome aboard. How you feeling? Everything all right? Hope your life is going more or less well. Wow, it's pizza night, guys. So tonight I ordered a $20 pizza. I feel a lot better about that now after that $100 contribution. I can tell you that much. I felt kind of bad. I was like, do I want to order, a couple pizzas? That would be $30. But I don't know if I want to have a pizza in my fridge. That's kind of expensive. I'm going to try and, kind of minimize my order. $20. But I feel a lot better about the $20 now. Zantu, thank you, dude. Zantu's been so generous these last couple of years. He's been following the channel since before. He's been donating since before I was a affiliate. That means a lot, dude. Thank you. Hope you're doing well. What's your most hated food, Austin? 100 beans. Dude, I'm glad that beans aren't worth $1. Can you imagine buying a bean burrito if every bean was worth $1? Pickles. Okay, you don't like pickles? Holy shit, Austin. Are you kidding me? You don't like pickles on your cheeseburger? Yo, shame this man in the chat. I don't like kink shaming in my chat, but pickle shaming, please do, guys. I want to see you run Austin out of town. You gotta have pickles on the cheeseburger, bro. That's required. You don't like onions either, I'll bet, right? Jeez, oh Pete's, man. I wish I hadn't even asked now. Should have asked Zanzu instead. He's a man of taste and refinement. Josh says roast me instead. Okay, he loves onions. Okay. You don't even like burgers? What? Not even a good burger? Oh my god, I'm getting distracted here, guys. Anyway, so we learned about the assignment operator, right? When we say an operator, we're talking about a little symbol, a glyph, a character, if you will, that does some work in Python or another programming language, right? Equals is the assignment operator because it assigns this name to this value and vice versa. It assigns this value to this name, right? So this is the assignment operator here. All it does is it takes some piece of data and it gives it a name to use later in your code. Pretty simple, but very common, very useful. We learned about function calls, right? So functions are basically a single word that will run some code behind the scenes in Python, right? So print is a function, and input is a function, and those are the only two functions we've learned so far, right? So functions have a name, such as print or input, and when you call a function or make it run, you do so by putting parentheses after it, right? Here's your print call, there's the print function, and here's the print call. Here's the input call. Yo, Mr. Pillowford, thank you, dude. That's for the pizza, bro. Thank you, man. 20 bones. Jeez, you guys have been really generous already today. Holy smokes, we just got started. How you feeling, Mr. Pillowford? Man, that's crazy. Thank you, guys. Yeah, I love onions, too. I'm glad to see we got some onion lovers in the chat. To me, onions are the best vegetable. And I can, too, I've also eaten one before just raw. And I like my onions white as hell. I don't want to sound racist, but if I'm eating an onion, I want that shit uncooked a lot of time and just white as hell. Watermelon is a cucumber, indeed. It's a gourd, right? It's a gourd. Or you mean literally some kind of cucumber. Onions are very high tier. Glad you're feeling well, Mr. Pillowfort. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well as well. Not only because of the donations, but because I'm in kind of a fine mood today. I woke up kind of on the wrong side of the bed, believe it or not. But that shower went down real smooth. Yo, Kenny likes onions as well. I like it. So, also, the cool thing about function calls is that some functions can take data into them and use that to do its job better. So, input, for instance, you can just call it empty like this, and that'll just make it like an input, like a prompt for you to type something in on, right? I'm going to demonstrate that real quick. Let's run our program. Let's run the program on my run module. So say, what is your pet's name? And then it's a little blinking prompt for me. Is that prompt? Well, it says here, what is your pet's name? And then whatever I enter into input is saved as pet's name. I can use the pet's name, you know, Mr. Pillowfort. Not forced. Okay, so now I typed in Mr. Pillowfort and it saved that value to pet's name. That's what input does. But print is kind of cool. If you give print some data between its parentheses, right here, it will put that data on screen. See, it says here, what is your pet's name? Because we printed off, what is your pet's name? So when you call the function, use the function's name, followed by parentheses, and then between the parentheses, you put in, you know, some data, you know, you want the function, you know, to have, you know, to do its job, essentially, right? What's kind of cool, in fact, is that in our previous stream, I didn't want to mention this because we were kind of really, we were beginners, right? But input can also optionally take some data, you know, between the parentheses, right? You can take some data in there. And the data it takes is the text you want to prompt the user with. So here we have 2 lines of code, right? What is your pet's name? And then we save input, right? You can see that right here. What is your pet's name? Mr. Pillowfort. However, the data that input takes is actually the prompt. What is your pet's name? Like that. This will prompt the user with this text now. He says, hell yeah, pet rock. Let's delete this line now. So we deleted the print statement, right? Let's save this and run it now. It says here, what is your pet's name? And on the same exact line, we have our prompt. Mr. Pillowfort. Okay, so it works the same. It's just that now we fed our argument, it's called. The argument, we fed it to the input function. So we talk about arguments in a programming language. We're talking about data that you're feeding to your function. And input takes an argument, and that argument is the prompt, to prompt the user with. Let's fix that down here too. See, we have a print statement here. We're printing off, what do you want to feed pet's name? And then pet's food equals input with no argument. Why don't we just use this prompt? It's a prompt, right? It's a prompt essentially. Take the prompt and feed it to the input function as an argument. There you go. Get rid of that print statement now. Okay, so we made our code a little bit simpler. Now we're using the input function to its full potential by giving it an argument for the prompt. We weren't doing that last time. Austin says here, I posted all my montages, including the first part, number 3. Ooh, nice. Thank you, dude. Look at that sneaky peeky. I have a pet rock in RuneScape. His name is Clyde. That's a really godlike name for a pet rock. What's another good name for a pet rock? I don't know. I'm not sure I can top Clyde. Maybe, no. See, all the other ones I can think of are too corny. Onions have layers. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not really great at doing a Shrek voice. But you're right. Onions do have layers, and they're delicious. Sloth? I don't know, dude. It doesn't top Clyde. Let me rephrase that. What's a better name for a pet rock than Clyde? Can you guys one-up my friend Faust? I kind of doubt it, to be honest. All right, so we know about the assignment operator. Right? We have some assignments going on up here, some data assignments. We also have some function calls with arguments. Right? The functions are things that run code behind the scenes. This code will, Walter, that is a great name for a pet rock. Walter's at least tied with Clyde. I like that. Maybe even better than Clyde by a little bit. Bob, that's really good. It's a really good name for a pet rock, but it's below Walter and Clyde. Anyway, so we have this input function here, and when we call it input, we're running some code behind the scenes in Python. We're running the code to make the program ask the user for some, to type in something basically, right? And we're using this argument here with the input function. We also have these print functions here that, they take an argument to show some text on the screen, right? All this stuff. Cool. We learned about adding in using the addition operator, right? This is addition operator. It'll add numbers together, such as pet's happiness is a number, right? Pet's happiness starts off as 50. You can add 70 with the addition operator. You guys know about that from first grade, right? This little plus sign there means add these two things together. And you equal sign it, and you can kind of assign pet's happiness, the new value, to whatever it was, plus 20. Right? That's when we have the the minus operator. You guys know what that does, probably, I would hope. But what's also kind of interesting is we have this concatenation operator. That's a really weird word. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it right. Concatenation, I think. Concatenation? I think it's concatenation. But it looks like a plus, right? It looks like a plus. And you type it the same way. It's the same plus character on the keyboard. But what's crazy about it is that it behaves differently if you try to add two textual strings. Otherwise, a string is a fancy word for text in programming. You have these strings here. What do you want to feed? And then pet's name is also a string. And then the question mark is also a string. You can tell because of the quotation marks. Now this plus is not adding them together because you can't add two words like you can add two numbers, right? 1 plus 2 equals 3. That makes sense, mathematically speaking. But you can't mathematically add two words. What you can do is you can squeeze them together, right? So it says here, what do you want to feed Mr. Pillowfort? Right? So we're taking two strings and combining them. Right? It's not like a mathematical add. It's addition between words. It's called concatenation. It means like combining them together. So it looks the same, still a plus, and it makes sense. You're still adding them together, essentially, right? That's why it's a plus. But it's not the same thing as a mathematical plus when you have two strings you're adding together. In fact, we learned last time, maybe not last time, actually maybe on our last season. Anyway, let me put it this way. You cannot add a string and a number together. We haven't actually got to that point yet in this program. But you cannot add a string like Mr. Pillowfort or what do you want to feed to a number like 2. It doesn't work. You can add two strings together and that will combine them, concatenate them. And you can add in two numbers together, that'll add them mathematically. But if you try to add a string to a number, it'll crash your program. So it seems kind of weird, right? But there's ways to get around that too. If you want to say, let's one day print off the exact number of happiness, so we can say like, Mr. Pillowfort has 70 happiness. We can get around that rule by using some functions. Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Fred's okay. I like that. Bob the Rock. I don't know. It's kind of growing on me, Killzone. When you say it like that, Bob the Rock. That's pretty good. Balboa. He's too corny, Austin. No names that reference rocks or stone. I wanted to say slate, something like that, but I was like, nah, I don't know. I don't think I want to. So Dwayne The Rock Johnson also disqualified. I still think if I had a pet rock, says Austin, his name would be Balboa. That's your prerogative, Austin. You'd have an inferior name than Clyde, though. I'm sorry. Bugboard Vodagoose? Slater? Okay, Slater, actually, I'll let that one slide, Kenny. I'll let that one slide. That's pretty godlike. Slater. Anyway, so we have some, addition between numbers. We have some concatenation between strings, add them all together. We have some function calls. Let's talk about these code blocks. All right, so in programming, your code always runs top to bottom. All right, so we have this code here, these 6 lines, and we're running it line by line. We define pet's food first, and then Python goes down by line and defines the pet's hated food. Then we go down by line and define pet's happiness, and so on and so forth. They all go in order, right, top to bottom. However, things get kind of tricky when you introduce the idea of code blocks. As you can see here, guys, these lines down here are indented. Right? They're indented by a few spaces. 4 to be exact. Right? 4-space indentation. So what we're doing here is we're saying that whenever you indent some code, you're saying these lines of code are taken out of the normal flow of programming. Right? These lines all go down straight down, top to bottom. And these lines have been taken outside of the normal flow. They're indented. There's something special going on here, right? And that's because they're in a code block. Every code block starts with a definition, like while, or if, or else. And that first line always ends in a colon. That's a code block. Right? So this is the line that defines the code block. Right? This is the line that defines this code block. Ends in a colon. This defines this code block. Right? More code blocks. You'll notice that the second line of your code block, not including the definition line, that would be the first line if you're not including the first, the definition line, is indented. And every line in that code block is indented by at least that many spaces. So we have 4 spaces here, right? That's how deep the while block is indented. So let's see how many lines are in this code block. Okay, here's the definition line. And all these lines are part of the code block. But down here, the print statement, Mr. Pillowfort is full. That line is not indented anymore, right? It's not indented. It's actually on the far left. So that line is not a part of this while block. Here we go. These are all the lines in the while block right here. Now this line has, exited the code block by now. It's actually not indented anymore. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, code blocks, like I mentioned, they're taken outside of the normal flow of programming. So instead of always going top to bottom, they will run conditionally. They will run under a certain circumstance. That's true of any code block, right? So any code that's indented, to the base indentation level, like this, will always run. That code always runs. But the while code block will only run under certain circumstances. It says here, while pet's hunger is greater than 0. So if the pet's hunger, let's say we're going to lower the hunger to 0 right now. Right? See that? Pet's hunger is 0. Save it. Let's run this code. Run module. What's your pet's name? It says here. Pet's name is going to be, we'll call him Slater. Okay? Slater's full. Game over. Right? Game over. So none of this code in the while block ran. All this code got skipped. We entered our name right here. We got a blank line, and we jumped right down to here. Slater is full. That's because this while block will only run if pet's hunger is greater than 0. And we defined it as 0 right off the bat. See what I mean? So none of this code ran at all. It just got skipped. So in Python, in any programming language at all, code always runs top to bottom unless it's indented, it's inside of a code block. If it's in a code block, then it won't necessarily run. It might run if the conditions are met. Otherwise, it won't run. It's a very short version of the game, right? Let's put the hunger back at 50. Let's make it actually, let's make it 60. We're a little extra hungry now, right? We've been streaming for a minute now already. Hunger is going up. Okay, so now this block will run, right? It says here, while pet's hunger is greater than 0, do this. Okay, in fact, the while code block is special. We mentioned before that not only can code blocks make certain code not run, but it might also make your code run in a way that's not necessarily top to bottom. Right, so in the while's case, what while does is it takes the code inside of it, inside the code block, and it will run it top to bottom, from here down to here. And then once it gets to this point right here, and it goes down one more line, then it will go back to the top and reevaluate its statement. Is pet's hunger greater than 0? So it goes through all this nonsense, right? At the very end, in our case, it lowers pet's hunger from 60 to 40. Right? Then it goes back to the top and says, okay, well, is pet's hunger greater than 0? If it still is, it will run it again. That's what the while block does. That's why it says while, right? It'll keep doing it as long as that statement is true. Okay, and it only checks that statement when it gets to the bottom. So it starts up here, and it runs at least once, because when we start off, it's greater than 0, pet's hunger. It does the entire code block, all this stuff, gets to the bottom, and the hunger is lowered, and we go back to the top. Hey, we just lowered our hunger, right? Is it still greater than 0? If it is, do it all again. Then it gets lowered again from 40 down to 20. Goes back to the top. Well, is it greater than 0? Yeah, it is, right? That'd still be 20. It's still greater than 0. So it runs it again. Finally, at the very bottom this time, it's going to lower it down to 0. From 20 down to 0. Go back to the top and say, okay, well, is pet's hunger greater than 0? Well, no, at that point, that's false, right? That's false. Because pet's hunger will be 0. It's not greater than 0. It is 0. At that point, it'll skip down to the bottom and say, Slater is full. Okay, that's kind of how the while code block works. Now, a simpler code block is if. Right? It says here, if the pet's food we entered in is equivalent to, so we learned that equals is an assignment operator, right? That'll change the value of a name to some other value it's applied. Right? The name pet's food is defined right here, right? We use the assignment operator. Pet's food equals whatever the user typed in when asked what they want to feed, Slater. Right? But this is not the assignment operator. Equals is a comparison operator that says, is the thing on the left equal to the thing on the right? So for numbers, we can say here, if, 3 equals 1 plus 2, then run this code in the code block. Right? So that would be true, right? Because 3 is equivalent to 1 plus 2. But for strings, such as, pet's food, what we're looking for is, are they the same string? So we're saying here, if whatever they typed in is the same word, the same thing, as what we defined as pet's favorite food. So essentially, did they type in cheeseburger? If pet's food is equivalent to cheeseburger, then and only then will the pet's happiness be redefined as whatever it was plus 20. So, whatever it was 50 at first. It's going to go up by 20. It's going to be 70 now. Right? So pet's happiness is now equal to whatever it was plus 20. We're making it go up by 20, essentially. Okay. And then we have, that this code here is a very simple code block. It's a lot like while, right? We learned before that while will not run its code if the condition is false. Right? The condition here is pet's hunger greater than 0. Right? So if this is false, it won't run. If is the same way. If this is false, it won't run. And if it's true, it will run. Right? That's the code block right there for if. Just one little line right there. But, while is different, because while will run it repeatedly. Right? If does it once. So it's kind of like while, but a lot simpler. In fact, it's the most common code block to learn first in a programming language is if. So if this is true, only then will the happiness go up by 20. Else is the last code block we learned last time, right? We learned about if, else, and while. And else means if the previous if was not true, then do this. So if pet's food is, cheeseburger, then do this. Else means otherwise. Otherwise, do this. So what we're saying here, guys, is, if the pet's food is equivalent to the pet's favorite food, then it gets more happy. Otherwise, we ask, well, okay, if pet's food is their hated food, then lower their happiness by 40. Otherwise, pet's happiness is, minus 10, essentially, right? So we have nested code blocks, right? We learned about how every time you do a code block, you indent by 4 spaces. Here's our while code block, right? That's all indented by 4 spaces. Here's our first nested code block, our code block within a code block. Here's an if block inside of that else. As you can see here, the first line of the if is indented by 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, because it's inside the while block, right? But this line right here is 8 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's because this is the if code blocks statement now, right? So this if block is within the while block. And here we have an else block, right? And it has inside of it even more code blocks, right? So this else block has an if and an else inside of it. So they're indented even deeper, right? This is what, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 12 spaces indented, right? Because this little line right here is within a code block that is within a code block, which is within a code block, right? This line is inside this if block, which is inside this else block, which is inside this while block. That's pretty common in Python, in any language. As your logic gets more complex, you're going to be getting deeper and deeper code blocks. And at some point, you might imagine, we're going to have code like way over fucking here, right? Right? If I do like, else if, and then if, and then if, and then if, right? We can have a ton of code blocks inside of code blocks, right? But later we're going to find out on day 4 or so, episode 4 or whatever, we're going to find out how to not indent all the way to the right. Right? There are ways to make your code a little bit neater, a little bit tighter, a little bit easier to read. You don't want to have your code like way on the far right, obviously. That's going to have very little space to type. But yeah, so for right now, though, for our kind of beginner level, as we do more and more code blocks, we indent deeper and deeper. And that kind of helps you see visually how deep your logic is. Right? Here's our logic, right? We're saying here, if this is true, do this. Otherwise, if this is true, then do this. Otherwise, do this. 3 deep, 5 me. Bubbles to rock. I'm sorry, I missed the rock conversation here. Let the corniness swell within. I got so sidetracked with code blocks. They're kind of a fun topic. Code blocks are the core of programming, guys. And like programming is fine. You can give a linear list of instructions. That's fine. That'll automate some stuff for you. But what's really cool about programming, guys, is when you can have the program make decisions based on values that are changing all the time, right? Like when we programmed this, guys, we didn't know what pet's food was. We asked the player to type in what pet's food is. So we don't know what it is before when we actually write the program. But then based on whatever it ends up being, we do different things, right? And that's what's really cool about programming. That's what makes it interactive. That's what makes game design so much fun. And that's what makes programs so powerful. So as you learn to use logic and code blocks in your programs, you're going to really open up the doors to some very cool concepts, very cool programs. Yeah, so what have we got here? We got, how about erosion? No, that sounds like a really corny Pokemon name. Yeah, I still think Slater. Slater is strong, Walter is strong, and Clyde is strong. Bob the Rock, as long as you always append the rock to the name, that's pretty strong. Bob the Rock. Let's actually run. So what's a good food for a rock? Favorite food probably be like, I would think potato slices. And the most hated food would probably be something like oranges. Right. So let's run this code again here. Save it. Then run it. Okay, so pet's name's going to be Bob the Rock. Now, if you say Bob the Rock, it's actually a pretty good name. We're going to feed him, you know, an orange. Oh, he hates that. He seems mad depressed. All right. We're going to feed him instead some potato slices. Okay, I think he's a lot happier now. Potato slices. He's in high spirits by the end, right? He's full now, though. He can't eat anymore. He only had 60 hunger, right? Every time you feed him, he loses 20 hunger. So he can only eat 3 times. Skizzers. Algae. All food, things that a rock would like, for sure. They do eat scissors for breakfast. Okay, so what else here can we talk about in our program? I think at this point, we've really talked about how our program works so far. So we can actually start adding new features to our program. Yeah, they hate paper, they love scissors. So yeah, we learned about code blocks, we learned about how they work, we learned about you know, functions and assignments. We know about 3 kinds of data, right? We know about strings, which represents text. We know about numbers or integers. That's, you know, stuff you can do math on. And we know about Boolean. What the hell is a Boolean? If you guys didn't watch last time, what do you mean a Boolean? I don't know about no Boolean. A Boolean is a true or false value. It's a very simple kind of data. So strings can be kind of complex, right? They can be, you know, however many characters long. They can say anything. Numbers as well can be very complex. You know, they can be very long or very short. They can be negative. But Booleans can only be 2 things: true or false. And you don't always see them. You don't always see them, right? Right here, for instance, we have a Boolean. Right. So this statement here, comparisons, they return Booleans. Right. So pet's hunger greater than 0. This actually returns a Boolean. So this is going to be true or false. And while will only run if the statement after it is equal to the Boolean true. Right? So this will return either true or false. If it's true, this will run. If it's false, it won't run. Same with the if statement here. Right? Equals equals is the comparison. This is a Boolean. That will return a Boolean value, true or false. If it's true, then this will run. If it's false, it won't run. Right? So we actually have 3 kinds of data here. We've got strings. We actually have 4 kinds. I'm not going to go into that too much yet, though. We got strings. We got numbers. And we have Booleans. Right, the 4th kind is a function. Functions in Python are actually a type of data. So this is actually a function, and this is a function. And although functions, when you call them, that's an operation, right? But the function itself is actually data. Anyway, so we have 4 kinds of data here if you include the functions. There you go. Let's actually make some progress. Let's make a little note here, our Notepad document. Oh, I don't want this one. I want my notes. All right, here. Okay, let's go over here now. I did some notes for today. So this is my program Vim. It's like Notepad. No big deal. It's just a text editor. So we're going to say here, you know, it's episode 2 of season 4, Intro to Python. We're making a digital pet. Sort of like a Tamagotchi or something. So up to this point, our program is very simple, right? It asks for a name for your pet, and it asks for what kind of food you want to feed it. The pet has 1 kind of food that it loves, 1 kind of food that it hates, and any other kind of food you know, makes it a little bit less happy. Right. Essentially, you know, if we're looking at this pet as a game, the goal would be to make it as happy as possible. You know, make the pet as happy as possible. I can't spell. Before it gets full. Right. In our game, our pet has 2 numerical attributes: happiness and how full it is. Depending on what you feed it, its happiness will change. And every time you feed it, it gets more full. Right. You know, the game is over once it's full, right? So, first of all, to make our code a bit easier to read, I want to introduce a new kind of code block. Right? Up to this point, we know about 3 kinds of code blocks. While, which will run repeatedly as long as its condition is true. If, which will run once if its condition is true, and not at all if its condition is false. Not full, but false. Also, I don't need this little thing there. Then we're going to say here, and we also know about else, which trails after an if statement and will only run if the if did not run. Its condition was false. Okay, so we're going to learn a new one. So our new kind of code block for today is Elif. Unlike the other code blocks, this one doesn't really have a true English word to define it. It's called Elif. Right? What it is, well, it's just an else block directly followed by an if block. Hence the name Elif. Let's go demonstrate that. Right? So right here we have this else block that is immediately followed by an if block, right? So we're saying here, if the pet's food is their favorite food, do this. Otherwise, if their favorite food is their most hated food, then do this, right? If it's this, do this. Otherwise, if it's this, do this, right? So otherwise if, else if. Same with this, right? If pet's happiness is greater than or equal to 80, so if it's really, really happy, print off that they're ecstatic. Otherwise, if it's greater than 50, so if this, do this. Otherwise, if this, do this. Right? So as you see here, we have this kind of this pattern a lot, right? Else followed by an if immediately. But what's crazy about that? Let's go down here, right? Say here, this is a very common design pattern in Python and other languages. And what's crazy about it is that you have to indent a lot when you do this. Let's go look at that, right? So we have this else, if, do this, right? So this little statement here, pet's happiness is equal to, pet's happiness minus 40. That's indented by, 12 spaces. We can reduce that down dramatically by changing this to an elif. Take away the else, do the if. Elif, pet's food, is equivalent to pet's hated food, right? Now we can reduce this by a whole indentation level, right? And so the same with this. Okay, look at this, much tighter now. You can see the logic more clearly here. We can see the logic more clearly. So let's see what we got here now. Now we're saying here, if the pet's food is equivalent to the pet's favorite food, then the happiness goes up by 20. Otherwise, if pet's food is equal to the pet's hated food, then reduce happiness by 40. Otherwise, it's reduced by 10. All right, so we're learning about elif today. We have if this is true, do this. Otherwise, if elif this is true, then do this. Finally, if none of those were true, then do this. Right? I'm going to go down here to the bottom, in fact, and say, just like else, elif can only follow after an if statement or another elif statement, right? And finally, an if, elif block can be followed by an else block, which essentially means, if none of the above were true, then do this, right? Let's go see how that works in practice. We have this right here, right? So if the pet's food was their favorite food, do this. Otherwise, if it was their most hated food, then do this. If neither one was true, else, then it's something. It's not their favorite food or their most hated food, right? It's some other food. Then happiness goes down by 10, right? Same with this block right here, right? If the pet's happiness is greater than or equal to 80, then do this. We can say here, elif Elif pet's happiness is greater than or equal to 50, do this. Here's another elif right here, right? Else and if, right side by side. We're going to say here, elif, look at all this indentation we're moving, right? All this indentation is going away now. Make it a little bit cleaner looking. Elif pet's happiness is greater than or equal to 50 or 25, then do this. Finally, else, do this. Right? So by using elif, we have really cleaned up our indentation. A little bit easier to read now. You can see the logic more clearly. The logic is, here's a bunch of tests to do, and if none of them are true, then do this. Right? If the first one is true, then we're good. Right? Because elif only runs if the if was not true. Right? So if pet's happiness is greater than or equal to 80, then run this and we're good. Otherwise, if that wasn't true, well then how about this? Is the happiness greater than 50? All right, if so, do this. Well, if that wasn't true, then try this. Right? Is it higher than or equal to 25? Right. Well, then finally, if that wasn't true either, we get the else block here. Print off, they seem mad depressed. We know it's below 25 at that point, right? Okay, so there you go. We learned our first new code block for the day. Elif made our code a lot cleaner already. We're not like indenting all the way to the right anymore. That's cool. That's cool. So now let's look at some new features for our game, right? Yeah. Let me delete this. We're going to say here, that's a great place. I'm going to get this, see if I can actually get some notes more visible for you guys. Actually, kind of just make this smaller, like that, so you guys can see it a little bit easier. Did I? Okay, so we're going to say here, that's a cool way to start. But why don't we add some new features to our game to make it a little bit more fun? Right, so what do you guys want? What's our next step for this game, right? Well, it seems to me like we need to sort of maybe have the pet have to go to the bathroom, right? So why don't we say that once the pet is full, it has to go to the bathroom. Once it's gone to the bathroom, it's hungry again. Right? That's just like real life. Kind of, not really, right? But it's a digital pet, right? It's got some kind of weird behaviors. Let's program that in. I think that could be fun in any case. So let's go up here and we're going to have this pet's hunger, right? So right now this while block for feeding the pet, it ends when they're full. Okay, so why don't we change that so that once they're full, their hunger goes back up to 100. Let's have it start at 100. How about that? Let's have it start at 100 for one thing. And now we are going to, when it gets full, right, so once we drop out of this while block, we're going to have its hunger go back up to 100. Right? So for one thing, let's make a note of this, right? Let's make a note. Or how we're going to design this, right? So basically, if we can feed our pet as long as it's hungry, and if it poops once it's full and then is hungry again, our game will never end. Right? That's, you guys can agree with that, right? Because it's going to always be hungry now. So we can change, we can change the condition of our while block. So basically right now our game works such that once the pet is no longer hungry, the game is over. That's the way the game works right now. However, why don't we just change this block, run this code as long as the pet is hungry, change it to while true. While true. Now we learned before that the while block will run repeatedly as long as its condition is true. Right? Well, right now that condition can never change. That condition is true. This code block is going to run literally forever, right? Until the computer's turned off, more or less, until the program is forcibly killed. Definitely awesome, I like that. So basically we're going to say here, while true, constantly feed the pet and lower its hunger. Okay? Constantly feed and lower its hunger. But here's the thing. We're going to say here, after we lower the hunger by 20, we're going to make another if question. We're going to ask here, okay, we lowered the pet's hunger by 20. If pet's hunger is less than or equal to 0. Right? So if the pet's hunger is in the negatives, or if it's 0, then we're going to say here, print pet's name plus takes a massive dump. Right? So that's when it poops. We're going to say here, pet's hunger equals 100. All right. So now here's our new code, right? So now instead of ending the game when it's the pet is full, we're gonna run this code over and over again. We're gonna keep feeding it indefinitely, right? And then once we lower its hunger down by 20, we're gonna ask before we start again. We're gonna say, hey, listen, we just lowered the pet's hunger. Is it less than or equal to 0? Is this number a positive number? And we're gonna print off if it is true, if it's code block, if it's true, then print off our pet's name takes a massive dump, and then refresh the hunger back to 100, and then go right back to the top again, and feed him over and over again. Let's see how that code has changed now. Right? Let's run here to our code and just run it again. Okay, what's your pet's name? Since it's Austin, you recommended we have this massive dump code. Let's make him Austin again. Okay, I want to feed Austin, cheeseburger. Kind of down. I thought that was his favorite food. We changed it, right? Oh yeah, now it's potato slices, right? Anyway, so we're giving him another cheeseburger. Okay, another cheeseburger. You can eat 5 times, right? Because it starts off at 100 now. Cheeseburgers. Oh my, so many cheeseburgers. And then we're gonna give him some prunes. Oh no. Yo. He seems mad depressed, and he took a massive dump. Ugh. Right. Ugh. I see here we have this little prompt that comes up right after the dump, right? Why don't we put a blank line there and make it a little more readable? Took a big dump, now he's hungry again. Let's feed him we'll make him happy. Give him some potato slices. And some more potato slices. And some more potatoes. He loves these slices, man. He loves potato slices. Potato slices, and one more. We'll give him some potato slices, sure. Okay, took a massive, now he's hungry again, right? So, our code now runs indefinitely. It has this logic that goes over, and I'm gonna make a blank line here, actually. Print that, and then print a blank line. Okay, so, we have this code now that runs indefinitely. As long as true is true, and it's gonna always be true, right? Run this code repeatedly, and then finally, if the pet's hunger is, less than or equal to 0, if it's a negative number, or it's a 0, then we print off, he takes a massive dump, and then his hunger gets back to 100. Okay, so that's cool. We added a new feature to our game. It's not that interesting, right? So we added a feature to our game where if our pet is full, it poops, and then it's hungry again. Okay, but that doesn't really get us anywhere. Because the pet's happiness is just moving up and down forever. It's moving way above 100 sometimes, or way below 0. Nothing interesting is really happening in our game, right? So why don't we say this, right? Why don't we have a feature in our game where, as long as our pet is happy, it wants to play. If it's sad, it doesn't want to play. That's a new feature we can add in. So, why don't we program some gameplay with it, right? Why don't we program a fetch into our game? Very, very basic fetch, guys. This is still our second day programming ever, so let's keep it kind of simple. What's up, Lobo? We're having a lot of fun here making our little virtual pet. It's pretty cool so far. Hope you're having a good day, homeboy. Okay, so we have this pet, right? And now we can feed it food, right? But why don't we change our code, right? So first of all, our game only has one feature right now, feeding the pet. Right away, we should program a way to ask the pet if it wants to play fetch. So let's change our code. Right now, we start our game, ask for the pet's name, right? It says here, what's your pet's name? Austin, whatever. And then it says, while true, feed it over and over and over again. Well, let's change that. Why don't we ask, we'll say here, pet activity equals input. What do you want to do with pet's name? Oops, I did that wrong. Like this. Kind of a long line there. Yeah, so what do you want to do with pet's name? Right, what do you want to do with Austin? What do you want to do with Slater? Right, we're going to say here then, if pet activity equals feed, then run all this code. Right, then we're going to say here, you know, indent all this by 4 spaces. Right now it's going to be inside this big if block. All this feeding code. See what I'm doing here, guys? We have a new code block here. You know, if we want to feed them, then do this stuff. So outside a new code block means indenting by 4 more spaces. Okay. It takes a dump if it's full. There we go. Right, so now we have this code block that only runs if they want to feed their pet. Right? So now we're going to say here, let's actually make a blank line here to kind of differentiate this a little bit. Visually, we had learned last time that blank lines in Python are not significant to the code. They're only there for our pleasure. So a blank line here visually breaks up this situation down here. Let me actually scroll this to the left here. It visually breaks up the whole thing here. So we're going to ask for an activity. If it's feed, then feed the pet. Right, here's the feeding code. Right, we're going to say here, otherwise, we'll say, you know, elif pet activity equals fetch, we'll say play. Right. We'll say here, you know, thrown object equals, you know, input. What do you want to fetch with? That's our entire game for, you know, then print off, you know, this doesn't work yet. Thank you for the follow, Rajo. We do Intro to Python here 1 night every week on Fridays from around 6 to around 9 p.m. Eastern. This doesn't work yet. Our fetch code doesn't work yet. That's fine. We're going to say here, else print off, please either feed or play with pet's name. So basically here, we say, you know, what do you want to do with your pet? If you want to feed them, then run the feeding code. Right? Otherwise, if you want to play with them, run the fetch code, which there's not a whole lot of right now. Otherwise, if it's none of the above, well, we don't know how to do that yet. Whatever you entered in, we don't know what it is. So please either feed or play with pet's name. Hey, what's up, Philip? How you doing, dude? All right, let's run our code, see how it changed now. Let's see here. Let's run our code here. Run module. Oops, invalid syntax. I have an error somewhere. Where? Okay. Oh, I missed a stupid. No, it's fine. What did I fuck up? Oh, I have an equal sign here. It's supposed to be equals, right? That's an assignment operator. Duh. We learned before that single equals is an assignment operator, but equals is a comparison, right? It says, is it equal to? I'm sorry. I'm a doofus. As you got to learn programming, you're going to find out there's a lot of syntax errors. You have to kind of be very careful what you type in. Let's make sure I got this part down here right. I didn't, see? I have to make this equals to. There you go. Happens all the time, guys. Did our last pet die? I know we had a very interesting diet. Well, I'm sure he's fine. But this pet also has a very interesting diet, right? Now he only eats potato slices and oranges, basically. He hates oranges but loves potato slices. We can feed him whatever we want. We can feed him rocks and cans if we want to. It wouldn't be that opposed to it either. We'll only lose 10 happiness out of the whole deal. Anyway, let's run this code. Run the module. What is your pet's name? We're going to name him Philip. What do you want to do with Philip? I want to dance with Philip. Oh, it says here, please either feed or play with Philip. It's kind of crunched in there too. Let's actually put some blank lines there, shall we? Let's put a blank line after we ask him what do you want to do, right? Put a blank line there. Okay, and then likewise, I'm actually going to put a blank line right here after every input, basically. Get rid of this. Okay, and then I also want to print a blank line after this error line here. Okay, that's fine. And a blank line after we do our little fetch code. Okay, so we have to either, it says either feed or play with Philip. Okay, then I want to play with Philip then. So what do I want to fetch with? A ball, obviously. Oh, it doesn't work yet. Well, that sucks. Can I feed Philip? What do you want to feed Philip? I want to feed him some potato slices. He loves those things. Okay, he's in high spirits now. That says, what do you want to do with Philip? Okay, I can feed him again. Okay, I want to feed him more potato slices. All right, so now our code is different, right? So before, we would feed him over and over and over again. But now, every time we feed him, we get another decision to make. Do we want to play or feed him again? All right, cool. So I kind of add some blank lines. It should be a little easier now. Let's actually save it. A little easier to read. Let's run this code here. I'm actually going to shrink this too to make it a little easier to read on the stream. There we go. Okay, so let's run this new code. We actually put some blank lines there, make it a little easier to read. Let's call this new pet, why don't we call him K. Reich Jr. Nice, it's orange season. Yeah, but he doesn't like oranges, though. All right, so what I want to do with Kenny, I want to, jog with Kenny. It says here, please either feed or play with K. Reich Jr. Okay, I want to play with Kenny. I want to fetch with a stick. Okay, it doesn't work yet. Okay, so what do you want to do? What you want to do? Actually, need a blank line after that fetch, right? Let's go here to the fetch code. Put a blank line after the input. Okay. Sweet. I can feed Kenny, right? I can feed him an orange. He hates that. Ew, he's mad depressed. I'm sorry, Kenny. Let's feed him again. We'll make him happy with some potato slices. Okay, he's kind of down. Let's feed him again. Give him some potato slices. Okay, now he's happy. I feel better now. All right, cool. So let's add some new features to our game. Right, fetch doesn't really work quite yet, but our game's gonna run forever. That's the problem. Right? The only way to end it is to kill it. Why don't we say this? Why don't we learn a new statement called break? Let's say here, if they want to play, then we can play. Why don't we say here, if pet activity is quit. Then we're gonna print off a blank line. We'll just print off. We'll say here, pet's name plus goes back to bed. Right. That's all that happens. Then we're going to say here, break. We're going to break our fucking code. So what does break mean? Break is a statement. Let's go to our notes, right? We'll say here, break is a statement that will force a loop to end. Right? In our case, we have an infinite loop, while true, that is going to keep us playing our game forever. Even though while true will always continue to loop, we can actually force it to end by calling a break, by entering a break statement. Right, that'll end the loop immediately. That will end the loop immediately. Right. So we have this right here. It says, if we want to quit, then break. The while loop will end. Okay, that means the game's going to end, actually, right? That's kind of cool. So we say here, please either feed or play with Carrie Jr. You can say, or quit. Right. Simple. Let's run our game now, see if that works. Let's run it. Okay, what's your pet's name? We'll call him Carrie Jr. again. I want to, go swimming with Carrie Jr. Okay, I can't do that. Why don't I play with him? Okay, I want to play fetch with some kind of, toy. Okay, this doesn't work yet. We don't actually have fetching code yet. That's fine. Let's feed him. Let's give him a cheeseburger. Okay, he's not really huge into cheeseburgers. That's fine. Let's quit. Okay, he goes back to bed when the game's over. Nice, so that kind of worked. Minecraft, Philip. I'm looking forward to it. You playing, Philip? That'd be cool. You're totally welcome to join us. The good news is, according to Ryan, if the pet dies, he gets garbage collected automatically. Wow, Ryan. That's true, but wow. Welcome aboard, dude. We have no dying code yet. The pet can't die. I'm not sure I'm ever going to add that, to be honest. That would add some excitement to our game, but I don't know if I can do it. It'd be too sad. You should write code if you feed him rocks. A PETA is called on you. That would be nice. I can actually add that code right now. Let's make sure it says here, if the pet's food is his favorite food, then do that. If it's this food, then do that, right? We're going to say here, if you know, Elif pets food equals rocks. Then we're going to say here, just print off right away. Don't do that, you meanie. Then we're just going to print a blank line and then break. We learned about what break does, right? It ends the loop. So we have this while loop. Oh, actually, that's going to make our whole game end, huh? Well, let's learn a new piece of code then, right? Learn a new command. Let's learn about continue. That works better for our needs. Right? It's very much like break. Let's go here to our notes. Right? So break, you know, break when used inside of a loop will immediately end that loop. Continue, when used inside of a loop, will skip the rest of the loop and jump right back to the top. All right. So basically we're saying here, if we want to feed him rocks, then just say, don't do that, meanie, and then go back to the top. What do you want to do with your pet? Let's go demonstrate that real quick. Let's go over here and run our code again. Pet's name is going to be Austin. I want to feed Austin. I want to feed him a cheeseburger. Okay, so now he seems kind of down, and his happiness changed, right? Let's feed him again. Let's feed him rocks. Don't do that, you meanie. What do you want to do with Austin? So he never actually ate the rocks, and he never had his happiness change. We skipped all that code with continue, right? Continue skips all that code and goes right back to the top. Right? So here we have a break. Right? If we want to quit, then break. Right? Here we have a continue statement. If we want to feed him rocks, then print off a statement, you know, print off a admonishment, and then continue. Go back to the top of the while loop and start over. Right? It's kind of cool. Ryan says, you're going to pickle the pet to save once the code is stable? Yeah, you're totally right, Ryan. So what Ryan's trying to say here is that we're going to, at some point in the future, probably in episode 5 or 6, make a way to save our pet. That way we can actually close the game and then come back later and have the same pet again. Right now, if we end our program, the pet we have kind of goes away. Right? He isn't saved. But in the future, we actually save him in a file on the computer and then load him up again when we start the program again. We're ordering Cajun pizza tonight, Philip. I'm going to try something new here. It looked pretty delicious. I want to see if I like it. And we're going to be watching a movie called House on Haunted Hill. It's like a classic horror film, very highly rated. I'm looking forward to watching it for the first time. I'm sure a lot of guys have already seen it. But yeah, it's an old public domain horror film. It's going to be pretty fun, I think. Okay, so now we have this code for, you know, kind of having some options to play with our pet, right? We can actually play with them, we can feed them, we can quit the game, and other cool stuff. But let's actually make play work like we intended to. So this is a beast of a code so far. It's actually our second stream, right? So we're actually getting pretty involved already. But really, it's very simple. It's just kind of getting along. And I'm going to make a note here, right, in our notes. You know, Dagger makes a very good point. Right. What's up, Dagger? Hope you're having a good day, dude. Dagger makes a point that our program, although it's very simple, and we haven't really added many new ideas compared to our first stream, you know, it's getting a bit long. You know, we have separate code blocks for feeding the pet, and soon playing with the pet. On our next episode, guys, we're going to learn how to write our own functions so that we can hide some of this code and make the overall experience a bit easier to read. That's kind of a cool feature about functions. Right now, we have also this big code, this big tower of code, right? And as we keep on writing more and more code, it's going to get longer and longer and longer. But soon, as we become comfortable with certain parts of our code, like feeding, right? Feeding is pretty much set in stone by now. We can actually put that in a function and hide it. But we're going to keep it here for now and make it a little bit kind of like a tall tower of code. Yeah, thank you, Dagger. Dagger's always so kind. Ryan says here, I wish all programmers documented like Venka. Good documentation is an art. You actually don't document that much. I take notes here for the stream, but I'm really more of a fan of self-documenting code. Right, Ryan? I used to use a lot of comments. So if you guys didn't know from already, if you do a like a number sign or a hashtag or whatever you want to call it, a pound in Python, that line, you know, this line will be ignored by Python when running code. Right? So basically, if this were an actual line of Python code, that would crash Python, right? Because it's not good syntax. It's not something that Python can read. It's English. Python wants Python. So, but if I put a pound there, or a hashtag, or a number sign, then this will be ignored by Python. It's called a comment. Right? It's called a comment. And what's cool about comments is that you can describe, what your code is doing in case another programmer is reading your code and trying to figure out how it works. But it's also really good when you're reading your own code after not working on a program for a while. Right? So comments are great. Comments are really, really great. I try to do what's called a self-commenting code, where I try to name my variables in such a way and use equations in such a way that it's kind of clear what's happening. That's a little bit, over time I found that comments can get a little out of hand. Python has doc strings and actually attach documentation to the code. Yeah, I love doc strings, man. I love doc strings too. We'll talk about that probably on maybe even tomorrow, huh? We're talking about our functions tomorrow. This is how we learn best. Don't skip steps. We have to learn chronologically, which means encounter many errors. Then adjust, streamline, etc. Can't skip that for super clean code right off the bat because we don't understand why. I totally agree, Dagger. What Dagger's saying here is that as we go forward in Intro to Python Season 4, that's our season right now, we're going to not only learn new concepts that make us more powerful as programmers, but also make our code even cleaner. Right? So right now our code, it's pretty clean. It reads more or less all right. But what's going to be really cool in the future, guys, as beginners, is that as we learn new features of Python, we can make our code much easier to read until it's, very, very streamlined and beautiful. But right now it's all right. It'll do for beginners. Anyway, so let's get our fetch code working, right? We have this game of fetch going. So we have this feeding code here. If pet's activity is feed, if we want to feed them, then run this code for feeding the pet. Right? All this code here. However, if it's play, then we have a very short line of code right now. All we do is choose a thing to throw, then print off it don't work yet. Right? Well, first of all, let's make it work like we want it to. We're going to say here, only play with them if, we're going to say, if pet's happiness is greater than, 80. No, greater, how about we say greater than, in high spirits, so that's greater than 50, right? If it's 50 or higher, he's in high spirits. Then we can play with the pet. Right? Then we can choose to throw an object. Right? Then we're going to say here, we'll say it doesn't work yet. That's fine. We're going to say otherwise, if it's below, 50, then say print off pet's name plus, isn't in the mood to play. It's kind of sad, right? There you go. So now our code is way more interesting as a game, right? Because now we actually have consequences to our actions. That's good game design. Right? Our actions have consequences now. So now we can run our game, run the module, and we can play with, we'll name him Dagger, the name of our pet. I want to play with Dagger. Okay, I want to fetch with a ball. See, because he starts off at 50 happiness. Right? So he's at 50 or above. However, I feed him a cheeseburger. Uh-oh, now he seems kind of down. He lost some happiness, guys. All right, let's try and play with him now. Oh, he's not in the mood to play now. Uh-oh, well, let's go here and feed him again. Feed him some potato slices. He loves those things. Now he's back in high spirits. Let's play with him now. Okay, now I can fetch with a stick. All right, so now, basically, if he's below 50 happiness, he doesn't want to play. That's kind of cool. Yes, F-strings. Yeah, so basically we have a there will be memes. That's a good point. F-strings is love. F-strings is life. What up, Chilla Joe? Speaking of clean, what about them F-strings? Dude, I love F-strings. So basically, guys, if you have our programmers that are beginning, you don't know what those are, right? But an F-string is a feature added to Python as of 2 years ago. It's a pretty new feature. And it allows you to add strings together in a very streamlined way. Now, right now, we're programming for total beginners. We're learning about concatenation. It's very important to learn that. I'm going to stick with these for now. These strings plus other strings. That'll get the job done. But F-strings are a new feature that I'm going to teach you guys probably on episode 5 or 6 of Intro to Python. And that's going to make us a lot cleaner looking. But yeah, I do love F-strings, guys. Welcome aboard. Okay, so now our choices have consequences. Let's go make a note of that, right? It's kind of cool. So, we just added a test for happiness before we can play with our pet. That's kind of cool because it adds consequences to our game. Right? If we haven't been feeding our pet the right stuff, it won't want to play. Okay. So now, why don't we get fetch working in some kind of interesting capacity, right? You know, or as much as we can, right? As beginners. All right, so let's go down here to our fetch code right here. Right now it doesn't really work at all. Why don't we have something happen here, right? So why don't we say here, you throw. Thank you for the follow, Chill Joe. Oh, Chili Joe. That's weird. I have another friend named Chili, Blue Chili, on the channel. He's a Third Strike player and a Smash Brothers player. You throw the. Thank you for the follow, Lion9, or maybe Leo on 9. You throw the thrown object. That's cool. And then we have a we can respond how fast the pet fetches it based on how happy they are, right? If they're feeling very energetic, they get it fast, right? We'll say here, we'll say that's weird. If pet's happiness is greater than 80, right, or equal to 80, we'll say print pet's name plus retrieves. I can't spell retrieves. The thrown object plus with lightning speed. Right. So if he's really happy, he gets it back real quick. Right. We'll say here otherwise. Elif pet's happiness is greater than or equal to 70. We'll say here we'll make it 65. We don't really have that. Let's just say 70. That's fine. Print off, pet's name plus, takes their time retrieving the thrown object plus, while wagging their tail. I guess they have that. Okay. We're going to say here finally, else, we know they're at least at 50 happiness, right? But we're going to say here, print pet's name plus, watches the thrown object fall and looks at you dumbly. Right? It doesn't know what to do. It's not really, it wants to play, but it's not really feeling that energetic, right? It's like, what? You're throwing a stick? I don't care. Okay, we do all these things, right? Based on what they want to do. Based on their pet's happiness. Let's go out here and make sure we can see all of our code. Pep 8, guys. I should make these lines shorter. We haven't learned about Pep 8 yet, though. And let's print off a blank line after that, and there you go. There's our little game of fetch. Very simple so far, right? Let's run the code and see what happens now. So Ryan switched to Python 3.0 or 3 point whatever. Right now it's at 7, I think, right? Just to have F strings. So I totally understand. They're a really cool feature. Okay, we're gonna have the pet name be Dagger again. I like that name. It's a good name for a pet. And for a dude. Let's feed him a cheeseburger. All right. Now he's gonna be a little bit unhappy, not by much. Let's try and play with him. He's not in the mood to play. Well, let's feed him some potato slices. And now he is at 60 happiness. Oh, I fucked it up. I gave him an underscore there. Now he's even less happy. All right, so now I gotta get him back to 50 with potato slices. Okay. There we go. Oops, my bad. Let's feed him potato slices. Okay, now he's in high spirits. So now he's back at 50. Now we can play, right? But he's not going to really be that energetic. I want to throw with a stick. Dagger watches the stick fall and looks at you dumbly, right? Because he's only at 50 happiness. He's below 70, right? Which means he's not really in the mood to go retrieve. He's happy to play, but he doesn't really want to retrieve. That's fine. Why don't I feed Dagger some more potato slices? And now he's at 70. So now I can play with him and throw a ball. He's going to go fetch it gradually. Right? Takes their time retrieving the ball. right? While wagging their tail, right? I have to put the word the. There we go. The thrown object, right? The ball, the stick, the whatever he's fetching. Okay. Now I want to feed him again. Give him some more potato slices to raise his happiness. Uh-oh, he took a huge dump. Right, he must have got full. Well, now he's hungry again, at least. That's whatever. All right, took a big poop. Let's play. And now I want to throw, you know, a toy. Yeah, now you got it with lightning speed, right? Because now he's super, super excited. So it's kind of cool. Our game has some, you know, some more consequences. Some more things are changing based on what we do. How hard would it be to add choices? If you've never played this game, I might not know the choices to input, etc. Well, if I put in the wrong thing, if I put in like dance, it says here, please either feed or play with Dagger or quit. But you're right, Dagger. We can add that in pretty quick. Make it a little bit easier. Let's change it. It says here, I'm sorry. Let's. It says here, what do you want to do with Dagger? How about this? How about we change that prompt to being, you know, right here. It says, what do you want to do with Dagger? How about we say here, do you want to feed or play with Dagger? There you go. It's a little bit more clear, right? I can choose feed or play. And now we can change this line here at the very bottom. Yeah, this line's still fine, right? It says, please either feed or play or quit. Right, there's that too. Okay, let's rerun this code. A little bit easier to understand now, right? Good point, Dagger. So what's pet's name? We'll make the pet's name, you know, there will be memes, right? Let's hear, do you want to feed or play with there will be memes? I want to feed him. I want to feed him an orange, right? Oh no, he doesn't like oranges. He's mad depressed. No, let's feed him. Let's feed him again. Let's give him some potato slices. He loves those things. He's still kind of down though. Let's try it again. Potato slices. Oops, my bad. I have to feed him, right? Potato slices. Okay, now he's back in high spirits. Let's play with him. Okay, I want to fetch with an orange, even though he doesn't like oranges. Whatever. He's not that happy anyway. He's not happy enough to kind of go fetch really. Okay, that's kind of cool. It was up in Nordist. A friend from Brazil. You're part of the game. There will be memes. Not really. But yeah, I do it if you want to though. Find somebody to add you guys in. Button up that shirt, booby streamer. Oh my god. All right, fine. I don't want to offend you guys. I don't want to seem too thirsty out here in these streets. Let's see here. I'm just trying to get the views. Good vibe. Jeez. I'm going to unbutton it later. After I'm unbutton it right now. That's super easy to add choices. Yeah, it's pretty easy. We'll actually add some more choices later on. They'll be a little bit more flexible. That'll be probably in episode 3 or 4 or so. You know, Faust's like, dude, don't ruin it, dude. Don't ruin it. Okay, so our game is, you know, pretty boring, right? We don't really have any kind of risk because our pet's happiness is totally controlled by us. I'm making a note of that, right? So, you know, our game's kind of fun right now. We'll say here, you know, our game is kind of cool, you know, for a beginner's game. But the problem with it is that we totally control our pet's happiness level based on what we feed it. Why don't we make the pet's happiness a little bit more difficult to deal with? I suggest we do this by having its happiness go down significantly when it poops. You know, how about this? How about we'll say that we'll have happiness go down if it poops and we don't clean it up. Right? That's to make it unhappy. Also, when we play, its hunger will go up. And maybe if we play while it's very hungry, its happiness goes down. Right? How about that? Let's make our game a little more interesting, a little more complex, right? While only using the tools we've learned so far as beginners. Why don't we say here that whatever we do, whether we play with it or whether we feed it, right? If its hunger level, which we already have a hunger level, right? If the hunger level is below 30, we'll print off that it's hungry and its happiness will go down. Right, so let's go down here to the bottom of our code, right? So we're saying here, you can feed it, or you can play with it, or you can quit, right? Whatever. But whatever you want to do, we're going to, let's continue here. Whatever you want to do, as long as it succeeds, is we will say if pet's hunger is greater than, let's see here, greater than 70, right? So if it's hungry, if it's greater than 70, we're going to print off pet's name plus seems kind of hungry. Right, then we're going to print off a blank line, and then we're going to reduce its happiness. We're going to say here pet's happiness minus equals pet's happiness, whatever it was, minus 10. Right? Just a little bit less happy. And also, we're going to say here, if they want to play with them while it's hungry, let's say here, if the pet's happiness is greater than 50, it wants to play, right? That's fine. But we'll say here, it also has to not be that hungry. We'll say, and, it's a new feature, right? Pet's hunger is less than or equal to, 60, we'll say. Right? So now we're saying here, if it's happy and not that hungry, it wants to play. Right. We'll say here, Elif, right? So this will only run if it's both pretty happy and not that hungry. We'll say here, otherwise, if pet's hunger is, greater than or equal to, 60. I'm sorry, if it's less than or equal to 60, right? We'll say if it's greater than 60, then this kind of a whack logic. It's all right. Print off, pet's name is too hungry to play. And it's going to become a little bit angry with you, right? For wanting to play instead of feeding it. We're going to say here, pet's happiness equals pet's happiness minus 20. It's kind of pissed off. They want to play and it wants food. Okay, so our logic is kind of whack. It says minus equals, not equals. We haven't learned minus equals yet. That's true too. So what Dagger is saying is that in Python, let's make a note of that, right? No, Ryan. It's on death's door. You've murdered it. Good fucking job. Thanks, Obama. All right, so we're going to say here, Dagger points out that Python has kind of a cool feature that's shared among a few different languages, right? And that's a combined mathematical operator and assignment operator. Let's learn about that right now. It's a pretty common process in programming to iterate a value, which means to boost it by some given amount repeatedly. Right. So far, we've been doing that whenever we feed our pet. And we do it using a line like this. Pet's happiness equals pet's happiness plus 40. Right, or plus 20, right? We do a lot of these lines where all we do is raise or lower a value by some amount and then resave it, right? So here we have this line we're saying here, the new value for pet's happiness equals whatever it was minus 20. So Python, right, and some other languages will give you a simplified operator for these kinds of statements. And it looks like this. We can say here, pet's happiness plus equals 20. Right. This line means, take whatever this value was, add 20, and then resave it. Thank you for the follow, GFXOP. We do programming here, Intro to Python tutorials every Friday around 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Hope you're enjoying it so far. If you have any questions, let me know. Ryan says here, pet's name is on death's door. In other news, you've gained 30 pounds of fresh pet feed for the next... Oh my god, Ryan. Jesus. You make a very dark game. I'm trying to make my game fun and fluffy and warm. Yours is all mean and sad. Typical Ryan. Says, keep the politics away from me. Dude, I'm sorry, Austin. Didn't mean to make it political. Right. You can also do a minus one, right? You can say here, pet's happiness minus equals 40 if you give them their most hated food. Right? Very similar. Pet's eugenics simulator. Oh my god. Thank you, Austin, for your forgiveness. So we can change these lines now, make them simpler, right? We can say here, pet's happiness plus equals 20. It's the same thing as saying pet's happiness equals pet's happiness plus 20. Right? This is a simplified version. It's called syntactic sugar. I'm going to make a note of that, right? This is called syntactic sugar. Think of the follow laughing bear. Interesting handle you have there. Sounds kind of Native American. Syntactic sugar, which refers to any programming language grammar that's only purpose is to make things look neater, right? It doesn't add a new feature. It just makes things prettier. We've already learned about another piece of syntactic sugar today when we learned the Elif statement. Right? It doesn't add new features, it just makes it a little bit cleaner. Pet's name plus has plumpened to death. It died smiling. I wouldn't mind dying that way. Maybe like in that one commercial from the 90s, right, where the guys blows up from eating all the cream puffs. No, that's Monty Python, right? Syntactic sugar sounds like a super smart nerd porn star. Oh, super smart nerd porn star. Yeah, syntactic sugar. That'd be a good name if you were like a cam girl that wore those big hipster glasses. I don't like what you think, Dagger. We should probably do that and make some money. Maybe I could do it. That could be my name on Kick. Anyway, so we've got this plus equals now, right? Let's fix all of our code. So we can go down here to this code right here. Pet's happiness equals pet's happiness plus 20. Let's change that, right? To plus equals. What's kind of cool about this, guys, is that not only does it make your code shorter, but it makes it more clear what you're doing, right? Because if you look at this code right here, pet's happiness equals pet's happiness minus 40. It's clear what it's doing, right? More or less pretty clear. However, you scanning by real quick, let's say you're scrolling through real fast, you see this long line here, you're like, okay, well, what's actually going on here? Right? Okay, I see. They're taking the same value and updating that value. Okay, that's fine. However, if you see minus equals, you know right away they're updating the value. That's all it can do, is update a value. Right? That's all there is to it. It's a little bit cleaner that way, too. That's syntactic sugar for you guys. Okay, let's go do that down here as well for our other simple updates. Like for the hunger. Right? Right here, pet's hunger equals 100 here. Pet's hunger equals pet's hunger minus 20 whenever you feed it. Just say minus equals, right? We're just lowering it by 20. And now we're saying, just take this value, lower it by 20. Okay? Cool beanzos. All right. Right down here, pet's happiness. We use minus equals now. If you try and play with it while it's too hungry to play, he's kind of pissed off at you. And likewise, if it's too hungry to do anything, if you leave it hungry for a while, it gets less happy right here. Let's do this with a minus equals now. But there's some kind of whack logic, though, earlier. I'm going to go back and look at that whack logic I made and kind of reevaluate it. A little more laughing bear. Venka wearing a man thong selling feet pics, huh? I like it, dude. Anything's better than, they gotta be better than this for money, right? So the streaming is not a huge money maker. Maybe I should try to kick on the side and try and make ends meet that way. Seems so simple. Python is bliss. JavaScript is really similar too. Yeah, JavaScript is kind of easy to run like Python is, but my god, the syntax can be a nightmare. I think Python is really cool because it's got a very nice, tidy syntax. Okay, so let's go to our logic for playing, right? We have this problem right here. It says here, if the pet's happiness is 50 or above, and their hunger is 60 or below, so they're not too hungry, then they're pretty much willing to play. We're going to say here, if that's not true, then if the pet's hunger is greater than 60, so if that was what made it fail, then we can run this code right here. Right? I think this logic is kind of hard to follow, right? Because we're saying, with this combined if statement, if these are both true, then run this. We're saying here, otherwise, we're trying to figure out why it failed. Did it fail because they were hungry? why don't we instead say combined some nested code blocks instead, right? We're going to say here, if they're happier than 50 or above, then we're going to test here if they are hungry or not. We're going to say here, if pet's hunger is greater than 60, then print off, pet's name plus is too hungry to play. Right? And they're going to get a little bit less happy. Pet's happiness minus equals, we're going to lower it by 20. Otherwise, then they're willing to play, right? We'll do the play code. There we go. Getting some pretty long lines now. Getting a little harder to read, right? We're going to fix that probably by next stream. Okay, so now that's fine. We're going to say here, otherwise, if they're not happy enough, then they're just not happy enough, right? That's fine. Okay, so now we have this new code block here. If you want to play with the pet, and if the pet's happy enough, then find out if they're too hungry to play. If they are, well, then they're too hungry to play, and they get mad at you. Otherwise, then they can go ahead and play with them. Right, there you go. Kind of simple to understand now, I think. I think it's better logic. Come on, Dick, we already made that joke. We already made the joke about the button-up shirt. I'm wearing a shirt underneath, guys. Jeez. Let's see here. Ryan says JavaScript is hipster webkin shit. Holy shit. I really hate JavaScript too. JavaScript is very powerful and it's very important to learn, I think, but my God, it's a little bit of a struggle to play with sometimes. Yeah, my friend Vince, Kenny's pointing out, my friend Vince also pissed off about JS lately. Where the year and day of the month, like 2019 and 31, means just that, but the month itself starts from 0. Oh, really? Holy shit, that's diabolical. What's up, Dix? Hope you're having a good day so far. Probably leave the bagels out of this. Gotta make that money, man. Gotta make that money somehow. Gotta sell those feet pics like Austin recommended. Okay, so now our game has some pretty cool features. In fact, now it's gonna be a little. Let's take a note here, right? So we made some changes to our game where our pet's mood is a little bit less under our control, right? Now it'll lose happiness whenever it's hungry, and it loses even more happiness if you try to play with it while it's hungry, right? So it's kind of cool now. Now it's kind of like we can't completely control the pet's happiness. We still have some problems though. For one thing, our pet's happiness can hypothetically go way above 100 and way below 0, depending on what we do. We should probably implement some kind of limits and reward the player for hitting 100 and punish them for hitting 0. Right? That's what we should do. Why don't we do that right now before we move on too far? I don't know anything about Rust. Ryan says Rust and Haskell programmers need to be rounded up and sent to the moon. Huh? Yeah, I don't know much about it. My friend Ryan is a connoisseur of programming languages. He's very dedicated programmer as well. He's very knowledgeable. Imagine a proprietary version of JavaScript. Who can even imagine such a thing? When could that have ever existed? Probably to this very day in many browsers. We haven't learned about pass. We can do pass. Let's do pass. Oh, actually, maybe now is not the best time. Yeah, we'll save pass for later. There will be memes. Unless you want to learn about it. Unless you have a question about it, I can answer it. But yeah, we'll save pass for now. We learned about break and continue. So basically what, there will be memes is saying is that, we learned a couple of cool statements today. In break, immediately end a loop, and continue, immediately restart a loop. Another statement in Python is pass, which is just a way to tell Python to do nothing. It's similar to a blank line, but there are situations where you can't use a blank line, such as on the first line of an if statement, or any other code block where you have to indent. Right? So for some of you guys, it's going to sound like a bunch of moon speak. I apologize. It's a little bit more advanced. Not that useful, to be honest. Basically, what we're saying here is that, in Python, if you don't want to do anything, you don't have to enter a command. Right? Just use a blank line. It doesn't do anything. Right? Like this. Unlimited, nothingness, basically. But if I say, if I want to program in a feature later, though, and I want to just have some logic or other code blocks that don't do anything, it's not as simple as putting in a blank line, because code blocks always have to have something indented, right? So if I say here, if 1 plus 2, is greater than 0, then do nothing. I can't. Right? Because it has to have an indented line there afterwards. That's what pass is for. That's all it's for. I can say pass. That just means do nothing there. That's really all there is to it. Now you guys know about pass. It's not that useful. I have a question about it. Why I can't stop using it. Yeah, pass is, I think means making a joke there. If you're a programmer that programs a lot, you're going to find that it's useful for kind of doing a rough draft of ideas without actually having to do any code. So if you're kind of lazy, you might end up with a lot of passes in your code. Also been trying to make an instrumental for one of the parts for this movie since I came into the stream at the start. Depression setting in. Oh no. It's like a placeholder dagger, exactly. Take a break, Austin. You deserve a break, man. It's just a hobby. Don't hurt yourself. Just get some food, have some drink of water, and hang out for a minute. Maybe you'll get inspired. Why would you want to not exclude a part of it? Seems rude to leave them out of the loop like that. Ah, dicks. Try, 1 over 0, accept pass, exactly. That's another thing you can use it for. Just for a little accept block that just lets an error go through. We'll learn about that later. You can pass to the next iteration of a loop, actually. I sure understand, right? Just been distracted, huh? That's okay. So take 5, dude. Don't hurt yourself. Okay, so we've got this code now. And here's a problem. The happiness meter can go up really high and go really, really low. In fact, let's demonstrate that real quick. Let's run our code. Gonna name our pet Dix. Right. And I want to play with Dix, obviously. I love playing with Dix. Okay. So he's too hungry to play. Seems kind of hungry. Is that a bug? Oh, yeah, because he starts off at 100 hunger, right? Uh-oh. He's pissed off now. Okay, well, if I play with him again, he's going to get really pissed off. Let's just keep playing with him, right? Play, right? He seems kind of hungry, right? So basically, he's getting more and more angry as I play with him more and more. I haven't fed him yet. In fact, if I feed him, and I feed him an orange, he's going to get even more mad. He's really depressed. Feed him again, give him another orange, and another orange, right? And another orange, right? So now he's probably got like 300, negative 300 happiness. That sucks. Right? We have to find a way to limit that somehow. And then punish the player somehow for having the happiness get that low in the first place. So what are we going to do, guys? Maybe we'll just have it say here, when we do his happiness check, we will we'll go here to our, I'm sorry, guys, this box right here. Right now we're going to lower his happiness, right? How about at the end of every cycle, every loop, we say here, if pet's happiness is less than or equal to 0, then we're going to punish them somehow, right? We're going to put a comment here, right? Punish the player somehow. Then we're going to say here, pet's happiness equals 0. So if it went into the negatives, just make sure it's 0. Don't let it get below 0. Kill him, buy a new pet. I mean, that'd be one way to do it, right? But I think it's kind of dark for our game here. I don't think I want to kill anybody's pet. But I do want to somehow, make the player suffer. Why don't we force him to type in something humiliating, right? How about we say here, player punishment equals an input of, oh no, your pet's, let's print it off, right? We'll print off, oh no, your pet's too depressed to do anything. right? Print. You've got to do something drastic. Right, then we can ask them for input, right? We'll say here, you know, player punishment equals input. Will you, I don't know, what's really embarrassing? Like, you know, will you, I haven't had a pet ever before in my life. How do you guys please a pet in an embarrassing way? Ryan says here, pet's name has been rounded up and sent to the moon. Number of pets, minus equals 1, baby. No! Bites the player. That's a good idea, Laughing Bear. He can bite you, right? When you try and do anything. But how do you... Let's make him bite you. Let's make him bite you for now. How about it ends the game? Let's do it that way. That's a little bit more clear, right? We'll say here, print off pet's name. I like this idea, right? Pet's name bites you. He poops on the carpet too, right? We already pooped. That really does suck. You're right. Bites you. And then poops on the dang carpet. That's how you know it's really pissed off. Print, you know, you faint from, you know, embarrassment. That's how you spell embarrassment. That's it. Game's over. You just lost. Right? That's one way to punish the player, right? Well, we'll break out of the loop now. Right? So you still got a game over. So basically, we have a game now, right? The game is to keep the pet above 0 happiness. If the pet gets down to 0 or below, then the game ends. If the dog bites back, this will end an endless loop of violence. It's okay, dude. I think that we're going to have the game end right there to make sure we don't have an endless loop of violence. What if the Roomba is the pet? It'll still bite you. I'll prove it. Let's run the game. That's going to be a Roomba. Right. Play with the Roomba. I want to play with it. Yeah, that'll piss it off because it's hungry right now. Okay, I want to play with it again. Play with it again. Uh-oh. It bit me, then poops on the dang carpet. You faint from embarrassment. Game over. Let's actually make a game over message down here. So we learned before about while loops, right? I'm going to talk about that real quick here for you beginners. Let's print... I'm sorry, guys. I'm kind of off to the right here. Game over. Let's go over here. Okay, so basically, the while loop is our entire game. The game will keep on looping and asking us over and over again what we want to do. That's up here, right? As long as, you know, as long as true is true, which is forever, then constantly run this code here of asking it what you want to do with it, and then we can feed it, play with it, or do whatever. Right? And then if we exit that loop, we're going to be down here. It's going to be no more indentation, right? We're going to print game over. Anytime we end the while loop, we're going to print game over now. So we can quit that way, or we can die. Let's run the game again. We're going to say your pet's name's going to be Roomba again. And if I choose to quit, it's going to say game over. He goes back to bed and it's game over. However, I can also die now from making it too pissed off. Right? If I call him, you know, dicks, and I feed him some oranges, he hates oranges. Right? Feed him an orange. That's it. Game over. Right? What happened there was I fed him an orange. He starts off at 50 happiness, right? He starts off the game at 50 happiness. The orange minus is 40. Right? If the pet's food is the pet's hated food, he loses 40 happiness. Right? And then I think every turn, more or less, he loses some happiness, right? Let's go see what happens. How do you lose that last bit of happiness? I don't know. That's weird. Should we try and figure that out? That's like a weird bug here. Unless I forgot how to do my code right. Let's see here. How hard would it be to add cheat codes? Very easy, Dagger. Should we add some cheat codes? Dick says, I'm glad you did. With a little bit of care of attention, they clean up pretty well, huh? We adopted a Roomba from a no-kill shelter. How the owner never emptied his compartment. In the arms of the angels. Wow. If someone's looking to get into programming, what language would you suggest first? Python. What about MV Parker? Definitely Python. It's a great language to learn as a beginner. It's not as useful professionally as some other languages are, but once you learn Python, it becomes very easy to learn other languages as well. This is a great place to start. Very powerful language as well. But yeah, I think definitely recommend Python as a first language. No problem. Welcome aboard, dude. You could also talk about the adding else statement with while loop, but I don't know if that's relevant for starting people. I totally agree there will be. I think it's not really relevant for now. Probably not even by episode 6. So guys, this is Intro to Python. Every Friday I do programming tutorials here, and it's a 6-episode season. So after every first episode of a season is total beginner stuff, like your first time ever looking at a program in your life. And then by episode 6, we have kind of an advanced program for a beginner, kind of like intermediate level stuff. And then I kind of leave it up to you to go and explore the more advanced of advanced concepts. And again, every 6th episode, we do like a big, celebration of our fully working game. And then by the next episode, we're starting over from scratch in a new season. Don't learn Scratch. I'd say Python to start with, although it may spoil you. Yeah, that's true. Python is a beautiful language, guys. It's got a lot of cool features other languages are missing. That's why I love it as a advanced programmer as well. But I do want to stress that in industry, there are a lot of other languages that are more popular than Python. Put it that way. I was thinking about starting out with C++ using chili tomato soups tutorials on YouTube. That might work. But yeah, I've been told Python multiple times, so I will. C++ is also a really reasonable language. I hate some languages, guys, that I know fluently, but I still hate them. Python is my favorite, and it's also great for beginners. C++ has a lot of problems. It'll make it harder to get into as a beginner, including the fact you have to compile it and stuff. It takes a little bit of learning. Python makes JS and Java easy to learn, yeah. Yeah, and C++ as well. If you can learn Java, you can learn C++. They're pretty much very similar. Anyway, so we have a problem here, guys. Our pet starts off at 50 happiness, and I fed him an orange. I lowered it by 40. He should be at 10, right? And then something happens to lower it down to 0. I forgot what it was. And our code is getting so long now, it's becoming hard to figure out what it was. Let's try and find it. How did he lose 10 more happiness? Oh, because he's hungry, right? Isn't that what it is? Whenever he's hungry, he loses happiness. Where is that code at? Right? Because he's still above some level of hunger. Here it is, right here. If pet's hunger is greater than 70, right? We fed him once. It lowered his hunger by 20, I think, or is it by 10? Yeah, so whenever you feed your pet, he gets 20 less hunger. Right? So he started at 100, he was at 80. He was still above 70 hunger. So he seems kind of hungry, and then he bit me, and I died. I'm sorry, Guinness, I'm sorry. We have to be a little bit more accommodating for our pet. Let's go run the game again. Let's feed him potato slice. He loves those things. We're going to name this guy Laughing Bear. That's a really cool name, I think. We're going to feed him some potato slices. Right. Okay. So now he's in high spirits. He's not going to bite me, but he still seems kind of hungry. Okay, that's fine. Let's feed him some more potato slices. Now he's ecstatic, right? He's super happy. He has his favorite food twice in a row. He's not hungry anymore. That's great. Now we can play with him. Now he's not hungry anymore, right? I want to play fetch with a toy. He retrieves the toy with lightning speed. Okay, cool. Nice. So our game now has this thing where over time he gets more hungry. Right? If I play with him, he gets hungry, right? Let's go double check that. That should be a feature. No, so he doesn't actually get more hungry when we play with him. So right now it says here, if he's happy enough to play and not too hungry to play, then we play with him, right? That's cool. But he should get more hungry. Let's do that right now. We're going to go down here to the end of our hunger code. It says here our fetch code. What do you want to fetch with? Save that. If he's happy, he grabs it real quickly. If he's not that happy, then he doesn't fetch it that fast. That's great. Let's say here, after we play fetch, pet's hunger plus equals 20. It makes him more hungry by a little bit to play with him. That makes sense, right? The problem with C++, says Ryan, is you'll be looking at old code on occasion, and it was written a lot differently. Not to mention the explosion and abstraction mess that are templates. Yeah, I never fucked around too much with templates, even when I used C++ a lot. Yeah, I really do recommend Python as the first language, guys. Anyway, so, as you can see here, our code's getting a little bit complex, a little bit involved. It's getting a little bit monstrous. And I think in our next episode, guys, on next Friday, we're going to take this code and make it a lot cleaner using function definitions. Right, that'll make our code a little bit less of a pillar. Look at this massive pillar. Like, it's kind of hard to tell what the hell is going on in here sometimes. Like, at what point is the fetch code? Where's the feed code? If I scroll through fast, you can't see it, right? It's like, it's kind of hard to tell what part of code does what. And we're going to fix that using function definitions. Also going to make our code a little bit less hard to read due to the indenting. That'll help us indent our code a lot less as well. We'll do that next time, guys. It's almost time for the end of the stream here. That's cool, though. Before we do that, why don't we add in one more feature? I forgot what it was. I had an idea, though, right? Something involving... Oh, yeah, clean the poop, right? Let's add in clean the poop. So when it poops now, let's pick a value up here on the top. Right? So we're going to add a new value to our game. We're going to say here, you know, poop on floor. Starts off with a Boolean value of false. We'll add a cheat code for dagger too. We'll add a cheat code for dagger. Poop on floor is false when the game starts, right? However, when it poops, right? Where's the poop code? It's in the hunger for it. It says here, if pet's hunger after you feed it is 0 or less, then it poops. So if it's completely full, it will poop. Then it's hungry again. Right? However, no, it poops now. We're going to change our value to poop on floor equals true. Right, now there's poop on the floor once it's pooped. And now, every time we do anything, if we feed it or if we play games with it, if we leave that poop on the floor, then it's going to become less happy. Let's go down here to the very end of our code, every turn, right? Every turn we do, essentially. And say here, if poop on floor, right? It's going to be true or false, right? Then we can say here, you know, pet's happiness minus equals 10. Right? It's going to be less happy if there's poop on the floor. You have to remember that too, or it's going to get pissed off at you. There's no reminder. It doesn't say here, you know, oh, there's poop on the, we're not going to print off here, you know, oh shit, there's shit on the floor. Right? We're not going to do that. It's up to the player to remember that. So it's going to get rid of that line there. And we're going to add some code to clean up the poop. Right? So here's our prompt, right? Let's go up to our prompt for the start of each turn. It says here, do you want to feed or play with so-and-so? We're going to say here, if not poop on floor, right? Not means the reverse of the next thing, right? So we're going to say here, if not poop on floor is false at first, right? So this is true because not reverses Booleans. If not poop on floor, then say, well, do you want to feed them or play with them? But we say here, otherwise, I mean, it's a lot of indenting now, lots of very long lines. And say, otherwise, we do have poop on the floor. Say pet activity equals input. Do you want to feed, play with, or do you want to feed or play with so-and-so? That's pet's name. Or do you want to clean up poop? To clean the room. Say clean, right? I can't spell. There you go. So now we have this really long prompt here. If there's poop on the floor, we get a different kind of prompt. Right? To clean as well. I missed some stuff in the chat here. What's up, Katie? Just joined Vencabot with tons of code behind him and the Star Trek yellow shirt. It's kind of hard to tell what the hell is going on in here. You're like, you right. Yeah, the line of code here is getting pretty monstrous. We're going to fix this next time, make it a little easier to read. Anyway, so now we have a new prompt, right? So if not poop on floor, then don't ask him to clean up the poop. Otherwise, ask him to clean up the poop. Right? That's cool. So let's add some new command to our game. So now we have if pet activity equals feed, then run the feeding code. If the pet activity equals play, then run the playing code. If they want to quit, then run the quitting code. Otherwise, please feed or play with or quit. We're going to say here, elif pet activity equals clean. If poop on floor, then print off, you clean up, plus pet's name, plus apostrophe s, poop. You clean up, you know, Katie Alpha's poop. And I would, if I had to. Okay, we're going to say here, print a blank line after that, and then say poop on floor is now false. Right. Should be an elif ant. Oh my god, Ryan. Ban yourself. Function, shovel, poop. Then clean it up to your pet, you're a bad person. I'm sorry, user man. We're going to, dude. We're going to. Okay, so now we can change the poop on floor value back to false again. But if we tried to clean and there was no poop on the floor at all, just print off, you know, there's nothing to clean. There you go. And now if we type in the wrong thing, we can also go down here to our error messages. It says here, please either feed or play with pet's name. We say here now, or clean or quit. Right. Right? These are all options we have now to play our game. So now let's, you know, see how our game has changed before we add in our cheat codes. Let's run our game again. So now basically we have a new feature in our game, right? Which is that once the pet is full, it poops. And if they poop on the floor, the pet's going to get more and more unhappy as time goes on. That's our new code. So let's run our module. Okay, what's the pet's name going to be? I'll make it Katie Alpha. I want to feed Katie Alpha. I'm going to make him really, really happy to start off with. I'm going to feed him a whole bunch of potato slices. He loves those things. Right? He's still kind of hungry, though. I got to feed him some more. Let's feed him some potato slices. Okay, now he's ecstatic. That's great. Let's feed him again. We're going to feed him an orange to make him kind of unhappy. He doesn't like oranges. Uh-oh. Let's feed him some more potato slices to make him happier again. Okay, if I feed him one more time, he's going to get ecstatic, I believe. But he's also going to take a shit, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, he took a massive dump. Now it changed our prompt. So here, do you want to feed or play with Katie Alpha, or do you want to clean the room? Right, so now we have a new kind of prompt here. I'm going to ignore that prompt. He's happy enough to play. Right, let's just play with him. Let's play... Oh, he's too hungry. He's too hungry to play. Uh-oh. He's kind of pissed off now. Okay, let me feed him then. Yeah, he took a big dump right now. He's hungry again. Let's feed him potato slices. He's still kind of down. Uh-oh. Let's feed him potato slices. He's still kind of down. Here's our problem, right, guys? So basically, before, if I fed him that potato slices, he would become happy. But now, the potato slices only raises happiness by 20, and he's losing lots of happiness because of the poop on the ground. Right? So I can't really make him happy anymore, dude. He's inconsolable. Unless I clean the room. I clean up Katie poop. Nice. Now it's clean up again, right? Now I can feed him potato slices, and all is well. He's back in high spirits. Right? So our game is getting a little bit more of a management aspect, right? It's a little more tough to keep up with. There's more things to keep up with, and it kind of makes sense for a virtual pet. Next time we're going to add some new features to make our game even more interesting to think about and more fun to play. But for now, we're going to call it quits, guys. And once I add this cheat code for Dagger, so we're going to say here, you know, if the player wants to type in Dagger as an input for the pet activity, let's go down here, right? Here's clean, right? Let's add a new bit of code here, a secret bit of code. Elif pet activity equals Dagger, print off Dagger's dat dude. How could, you know, a pet's name not love him? We'll say here, pet's happiness equals 200. Well, let's put it to 100, right? So basically, by typing that in, he's going to get his happiness back to maximum. Kind of cool. So let's run the game again. Very easy to add a cheat code. Totally trivial. Run the module. We're going to name our pet, I don't know. Who's new? I have Jiffy in the chat. Oh, boy, Jiffy. I've been zoning out, but you are awesome. Thank you, Jiffy. That's really kind of you to say. I'm doing my damnedest out here in these streets. I want to feed Jiffy. I'm going to feed him an orange. He hates oranges. Oh, fuck, he bit me and I already died. Fuck, I forgot that kills you if you do it first turn. Let's try it again. Run the module. Let's name him Jiffy again. Let's feed him potato slice to start off with, right? He's too hungry at first. He doesn't really want to fuck around if you feed him the wrong thing. Okay, so let's feed him again. We're going to feed him, let's do some more slices, right? Start off strong. Okay, so now let's feed him some orange. He hates oranges. Now he's kind of down. Okay, I'm going to feed him, you know, some potato slices. I want to make him poop. Let's feed him potato slices. Okay, now he's got poop on the ground. That's a problem. That's a problem. So now he's going to become more and more unhappy as time goes on. Let's feed him, you know, a cheeseburger. That's kind of makes him a little bit unhappy. He's still in high spirits, though. Let's feed him another cheeseburger. I'm sorry, I have to feed him a cheeseburger like this. He's mad depressed now. Okay, so next turn he's probably going to bite me because the poop on the ground making him depressed. Okay, well, I can feed him or play with him, or I can clean the room, right? But we know we have a cheat code. Let's type in Dagger. Dagger's dad, dude. How could you not be happy how could Dagger not love him? Now he's super happy again. Right? So now I can feed him a cheeseburger. What do I have to do? Like, I have to feed and then cheeseburger, right? He's ecstatic again, right? Because we did the Dagger command, which is the cheat code that makes his happiness go back to maximum. Super Saiyan mode. Maybe one day. Feed him, but watch out for his evil ex. Yeah, Chiefy's ex is known, bitch. She's a known bitch. Pretty soon there'll be a store to purchase food, money management. I think that'd be kind of fun, Ryan, to be honest. Maybe earn money by having the pet go to like pet shows and stuff. Maybe give him an incentive to keep his pet clean. I don't know. We'll think of something, guys. So this genre of game is called IF games. I'm not sure, Laughing Bear. Never heard of this genre before. I thought I kind of started off as like a digital pet idea, kind of like a Tamagotchi. But really here on Intro to Python, guys, we're trying to teach Python programming to total novices. And it's only our second episode, which means that we're doing some really beginner type stuff. And as a beginner, our tools are kind of limited. We can't really do a true Tamagotchi because we can't really implement like timing and stuff yet. It's mostly just turn-based. But it's still kind of cool. The game now is somewhat interesting, I feel like. However, it is getting a bit messy. We have 108 lines of code, and the game is one big tower of if-elif statements. And they're pretty long lines, pretty deeply indented. Look at this indent right here, my God. That's really far off to the right side of the screen, right? So next time, guys, we're going to learn about function definitions and how to kind of make your code easier to read, easier to understand, and less indented by defining your own functions, kind of like we've been using, print and input, our functions, right? We can make our own, which makes things a little bit tidier. That's going to make our code a lot easier to understand and easier to expand upon in the future. But right now it's kind of cool. It gets the job done. We have cheat codes and stuff. It's interactive. There's a way to lose. There's not really a way to win yet. It's kind of a digital pet, though. Not really meant to be a way to win. In any case, guys, as usual, if you guys enjoy hanging out, I'll keep the channel on and check my Patreon page, patreon.com/Vencabot. Even $1 is a huge help. Helps me buy gas and groceries and buy pizza for our pizza night here. We're going to be watching a movie very shortly, guys. Definitely hang out for the movie after this. It's going to be a lot of fun, I think. Also, you can help for free if you're like me. Maybe you're totally broke. Maybe you're a student, or you're working part-time, or you're working full-time. You have a house to pay off and a family to feed. That's great. In fact, the best way to help out the channel is to get in the chat, come say hi, follow on Twitch, tell your friends we're here, save clips. Check out YouTube at youtube.com/Vencabot Archive, where we have all of our past seasons of Intro to Python. This is season 4 already, believe it or not. Season 1 was a Pokemon game. You can go watch us program that from start to finish, right? Episode 1 is total beginner stuff. What is a program? What makes up a program? What is an if statement? What is a variable? That's all episode 1. And then as time goes on, we add more and more advanced concepts. And by episode 6, we have a fully working if simple game, right? Season 1 was Pokemon. Then we did a Zork-like adventure puzzle game. And then we did last season a JRPG similar to Dragon Warrior, kind of. And then this season, in season 4, it's a digital pet. Every time we start off with beginner concepts and end with more advanced concepts, and they're all available on YouTube, guys, at youtube.com/Vencabot Archive. I'll be right back, guys. Uh-oh! Crimson Wolf! Crimson Wolf! Sorry, guys. Speaking of pizza in a movie, my pizza just showed up kind of early. I respect that.
Would be me. That would be me.
Let me read the chat here.
It's like, oh boys, we're gonna go.
Yo, this pizza smells so fucking good. Yeah, it's a monolithic code chonk for sure. Yeah, have a good one, Laughing Bear. Thanks for hanging out, dude. Movie time. Can you stream on YouTube at the same time as Twitch, Venka? I'm usually on YouTube, not Twitch. Would love seeing your channel live in my notifications. Here's the thing, Dagger. As a Twitch affiliate, I can't do that. I've talked before about how I love Twitch subs, but Patreon support's much more valuable to me because it doesn't limit me the same way as Twitch subs do. Being a Twitch affiliate, I kind of have this contract that's really annoying. One day I would like to forego my Twitch affiliate status and sort of go back to being a regular Twitch user. And then I could actually stream on both YouTube and Twitch at the same time. Anyway, guys, so we have a really cool program here. I have my pizza. I'm looking forward to that. Next Friday at around 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, it's going to be episode 3 of this season. We're going to talk more about our virtual pet, add some new features, learn some new stuff about lists maybe, function definitions, arguments, other fun, cool stuff. Until then, I'm going to be doing some other streams on next week, Monday through Thursday, of course. And tonight, guys, is going to be some movie action. We're going to be watching House on Haunted Hill. Kind of a classic horror film. Eat some pizza and hang out. I will see you guys very shortly with that. Until then, peace out. Excuse me. I want this one. He says, get it, though. Yeah, thank you, Dagger. You know, I'm always trying to get it. But yeah, so basically, being a Twitch affiliate, it has been a boon to this channel, for sure. The Twitch subs are very much appreciated, guys. They go a long way. But you can actually save money and help the channel out even more on Patreon. Again, every Twitch sub that you make, this channel gets half of that money. The other half goes to Twitch. Or on Patreon, 90% goes to this channel. So for a $5 Twitch sub, the equivalent on Patreon is like a $3 sub. So you can save yourself some money and help the channel even more that way. And again, it helps me get out of this Twitch contract. But it's a life. It's all good. Actually, it's called a Cuban pizza. It's something new. It's like chicken and barbecue sauce and other crazy stuff on it. It sounds like it'd be pretty fun. It smells good. That's a good vibe. Open board, man. As far as I know, no one's joining. I haven't checked Discord yet, though. As far as I know, it's just going to be me. Yo, you're going to join GF? Let's go. Yo, Mexi, you're right, dude. Smell good equals taste good. How you doing, Mexi? Oh, files will be nice. You guys all have the video file, right? Let me upload this stuff to GitHub for you guys. If you guys want to follow along with our Intro to Python projects, you can do so at github.com/Vencabot. There's an Intro to Python repository there where I upload all our stuff. Let's go, Faust. So Mexi's seen it, huh? I've heard it's pretty good.
Oh my god.
There was also a 1999 remake.
Oh my god, what just happened?
We're watching the original tonight. Black and white movie starring Christopher Lee. No, I'm sorry. Vincent Price. Big difference. It's called House on Haunted Hill, good vibe. It's considered to be a classic. It's very highly reviewed.